We want to restore the records of these young women. You know, these women lost records. One didn't go to regionals, one didn't go to state, all because of a boy. All of these records should be restored, not only in Maine, but around the country. Of these young women, you know, Riley Gaines started training for swimming when she was 4 years old. She made it to the Olympics.
I'm sorry, what? When? Where? Paris? Tokyo? Rio? Name the location. Speaking is Attorney General Pam Bondi.
First graders or even pre-Ks have A1 teaching, every year starting, that far down in the grades. Now, okay, let's see A1 and how can that be helpful? How can it be helpful in one-on-one instruction?
Between Bondi not having a clue what the Olympics are and Education Secretary Linda McMahon confusing AI with A1, quite some times we're living in.
A lot of this around the country is being taken away from young women now because boys are competing in women's sports. And it's more than that. It's a safety issue. They are completely changing clothes, getting nude in young women's bathrooms. Try being the parents of these young women. It's ridiculous what they're doing. They're going in the restrooms, they're going in the locker rooms. Our young women throughout this country should not have to go through this. And under President Trump's directive, we're going to fight to keep women safe and women winning in women's sports throughout this country.
Okay, there's so much here, and we will dissect it piece by piece with what Attorney General Pam Bondi said. First,
look, all I know is this: Riley Gaines better think she need to send Leah Thomas a cut of her money every month.
Oh, yes.
Every single month. Because I've never seen somebody who was
unsuccessful.
I was trying to think of a polite word to put it.
Isn't
in
that
her
polite?
own
Was I not being polite?
I mean, I was trying to think of a polite word to say there because I don't want to denigrate the fact, like, she became a college swimmer. A lot of people never get that far. But I've never seen somebody able to curry so much favor, gain so much capital and currency out of being fifth place. Never seen it before in my life. And the reason she has been able to do that is because she willingly stomped on a marginalized community and trafficked in their disrespect and denigration as human beings to get the attention in the attention economy. She did it and continues to do it. It's her only claim to fame. Her only claim to fame is I finished fifth place. That's her claim to fame. And, to now be this like media star and you're a star because of how you denigrated somebody else. Like, that's how you got there. And rather than be thankful for such a good fortune on such very little accomplishments, she just continues to be a part of this this media pro wrestling ring and play this part.
I spoke with Jamil Hill on my podcast in regards, in part, to Riley Gaines, and she was preaching. And that is an interview that will be up shortly. Meanwhile, Attorney General Bondi spoke of protecting women.
Every Sunday night during session, I say goodbye to my wife and kids and make the 3-hour trek to St. Paul to fight for our way of life, because day after day, it is under attack from Metro liberals.
That is former politician of Minnesota, Justin Eichhorn. Here's the latest.
All right, let's take you over to Minnesota now, where a state Senate Republican just resigned. This after 40-year-old Senator Justin Eichhorn was charged with allegedly soliciting sex from a minor.
Federal prosecutors say Eichhorn began messaging someone who he thought was 17 years old on March 11th. As it turned out, he was actually communicating with an undercover officer. Now, during those conversations, an undercover officer had multiple times said this purported girl was 17 years old. Despite that, this conversation continued, and Eichhorn allegedly asked for several photos. How did this happen? Well, prosecutors say Eichhorn answered an online ad that was part of a bigger and broader operation that targets sex trafficking.
Then there's the case of Larry Craig, who you just saw, a former Republican senator from Idaho, arrested in a public bathroom during a layover when he made sexual advances to an undercover police officer from the adjoining stall. We've even covered how, even if Attorney General Pam Bondi says it's factual and paramount in that entire rant on Fox News.
How many athletes are there in the United States in NCAA schools?
510,000.
How many transgender athletes are you aware of?
Less than 10.
Less than 10
Yep.
out of 510,000?
Yep.
510,000 athletes, 10 transgender athletes nationwide?
Or less.
The man answering those questions is the head of the NCAA, Charlie Baker. He was being questioned by Illinois Senator Dick Durbin. Those numbers, to repeat one more time, out of 500,000 athletes, 500,000, that percentage is less than 0.002% of college athletes. And he said it was potentially less than 10. Thus, in 2022, YouGov polled 1,000 Americans, and the results showed just how out of touch we are with reality on this subject, and how the moral panic has gone into overdrive by one side of the political aisle. The poll found Americans tend to vastly overestimate the size of minority groups, including the proportion of people who are trans. Respondents to the poll guessed more than a fifth of the country was trans. The true estimate is just 0.6%. That's according to YouGov. Not a third, not a fifth, not an eighth, 0.6%. Hey guys, quick break in the action. I have a new show coming out called The Rick Strom Show. It is going to be awesome. I'm interviewing musicians, athletes, producers, writers, journalists, authors, sports doctors. Go check it out at youtube.com/@TheRickStrom Show. Also be sure to throw me a follow on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. It can all be found in the description box below. Thank you.
The law you just signed banning transgender female athletes from playing on women's school sports teams. Can you name one example of a transgender child trying to gain an unfair competitive advantage at a school there in West Virginia?
Well, Stephanie, I don't have that experience exactly to myself right now, but I will tell you this.
Not yourself, your state, sir. Can you give me one example of a transgender child trying to get an unfair advantage? Just one in your state. You signed a bill about it.
No, I can't really tell you one.
Then there was West Virginia Senator Jim Justice, who switched allegiances, by the way, once Trumpism came into play and he wanted to save his political career. He couldn't name a single trans athlete. When he signed the bill to exclude trans people in high school sports in his state.
How many girls in Georgia have been denied opportunity because of transgender athletes participating in sports?
Yeah. So obviously there's not a lot of statistics on that.
So there are none in Georgia?
Again, I don't have any hard data.
Will you cite any examples where a young woman was denied a scholarship opportunity or a title here in Arizona, not outside of Arizona, not anecdotally in another state, but here specifically in Arizona, because they were competing against a trans athlete who outperformed them?
I can't at this point, Mr. Chairman.
Akin to Georgia. Nothing. Kristi Noem, currently for some reason the Secretary of Homeland Security, she served as governor of South Dakota, and in her time when asked to cite a trans athlete competing in high school sports, she couldn't name a single one. In Louisiana, rinse, wash, repeat. The list goes on and on and on. And as the New York Times calls it, Republicans' assault on trans people is just simply cruel. That's all that this is. And this is a byproduct of their approach, because policy-wise, they don't have much. They really don't. They continue to lie over and over and over. The hook, line, and sinker was the economy and eggs. Really, Donald Trump twice now has inherited great economies. And this was their saving grace, because as we saw, Super Bowl, prior to, afterwards, I mean, I saw it all over, plastered on broadcasts for sporting events. It was trans athletes, trans athletes, trans athletes. And it's just, the numbers don't lie when it comes to this topic. Wrote Chris Hayes, here's what is true. There are far, far fewer trans Americans than the far right wants you to think that there are. They do that because they need the fuel of real, actual human beings to be fed into the engine of their cynical culture wars, he would conclude. The more Republicans obscure that truth, the more damage they do to a deeper truth. No matter their numbers, every trans person is as worthy as anyone else of dignity and respect and equal rights under the law. If you can and are willing, please become a paid member here at TYT Sports. And or go to tyt.com/join. In addition, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate it. Have a great day.